In the first part of this two-part video series, I showed what women may have worn during a late medieval winter. I get asked from time to time if I could also show what men may have wore in various periods, but since I generally don't sew masculine garments for myself, I usually don't have the opportunity to show this. That's when I realized that I could get my friends involved, and in this episode, it's going to be all about medieval menswear. I'm here today on this wintry afternoon in Norway with my dear friend Mats, who is like a brother to me, and he makes beautiful medieval clothing. And I wanted to show you all so you can kind of see what menswear is like during this period. Can you maybe explain a little bit about what your clothing is like and what's happening here?
I'm wearing kind of a typical attire for a woodsman from the late 14th century to the early 15th century. So since we're out here in the cold, we need to be very well packed. So I have a wool lined hood here, which will keep my face and my head warm during the winter cold. I have some home-sewn mittens, which is good for grabbing things in case. Of course, I have also a jacket on to keep myself extra protected from the cold. And underneath that, a simple tunic in tartan. And this is basically what men normally wear in the common class back in this time. And of course, underneath, here in the early 15th century, men start wearing full hoses. As you can see, there's a cut piece here in the middle. And they go all the way down here to my feet. And to keep my feet extra warm, I keep these short hoses here, and on top of the short hoses, of course, some nice leather shoes.
Perfect. So let's go through each layer one by one, and I guess you has to get a dress for the camera because Matt's already got dressed, so I didn't want him having to get in his smock and then coming out here. So he'll just take off the layers and you'll see one by one what's going on, and the layers that make up kind of late 14th century, early 15th century medieval menswear.
Great!
After we filmed this video, I texted Mats and asked him if he could describe each garment to me, so that you could all have a bit more context, since he is the one that sewed each piece after all and knows far more about them than I do. I slightly modified the text he sent me to fit into the context of this video, but these are mostly Mats's words. Since we're working in this video from outer layers to under layers, since Mats was already fully dressed when I asked him if he wanted to film now, the first layer is the hood, and it is a traveling hood made in a rough weave with a finer lining of brown wool. It's made to break the wind and keep the main source of warmth excess of the body in during cold days, which is of course the head. I know firsthand as well how much keeping your head warm is important for staying overall warm. This hood is fitted with a Leary pipe for both fashionable and practical purposes. And these are Mats's exact words. It signifies that you can afford excess for your drip, but can also be usable whilst wrapped around the forehead if it's really windy to prevent the hood from pulling backwards. You may have noticed that my channel has been a lot more collaborative this past year. That's because none of what I'm doing is possible without my friends in reenactment, without my friends that support me overall, and also the other creators, makers, artists, thinkers, and more that inspire me on a daily basis to continue my work. I love celebrating and acknowledging the incredible work of other individuals in this community as often as possible. Jay Draper recently released a video called "Why Did Guys Put Their Hands in Their Waistcoats?", which is a brilliant video essay that discusses the historical reasons and deeper meaning behind the classic stance that you constantly see in historical portraits. I absolutely adored this episode, and it is exclusive to an ethical streaming service called Nebula, and it is a part of their Nebula Plus content. Both Jay Draper and I are creators on Nebula, who are actually the sponsor of this video. I'm incredibly proud to be a part of this community because we're an independent creator-owned streaming service that offers ad-free, easy access, and early access content, as well as exclusive content such as Nebula First, where everything is released early, Nebula Plus, where bonus content is available, such as Jay Draper's video, and Nebula Originals, where prestige, high-quality videos made in collaboration with Nebula can be discovered. Our platform is also free from AI slop, so you don't have to worry about accidentally supporting channels that aren't even run by humans. And I feel like there are so many of those cropping up right now on YouTube, especially around history and science, and to me it just feels extremely concerning. Nebula also contains a plethora of thoughtful content that simply can't be found anywhere else. My favorite part of all of this is that we are a cooperative, and I love being a part of a streaming service that's actually in alignment with my own personal values. All of my content is released over on Nebula first, 2 to 3 days early, including this video that you're watching right now. And you also get guest passes as a Nebula subscriber, where you can gift a first-time watcher 1 week free on Nebula. Nebula offers monthly, yearly, and lifetime subscriptions, and by using my link in the description or scanning the QR code here on screen, you can get a lifetime subscription for just $300 or 50% off a Nebula yearly subscription costing just $30 per annum. Thanks so much to Nebula for sponsoring this video, and I'm so grateful to them for supporting me in my endeavors to release informative historical content like this video without having to worry about algorithms and all the other downsides of posting to social media. Now let's get back to learning about late medieval menswear. Next up is a coat, and this one is known as Herjolfsnes 63. This coat is based on a find from a graveyard near Herjolfsnes on Greenland, and this coat is very practical as it covers the torso and upper legs, and can furthermore be buttoned depending on what's needed for your circumstances. It has a narrow collar which comes into fashion for regular people in the late 14th century, and as a little fun fact from Mats, it is made up of several more pieces than one would normally find in a regular late medieval coat. Therefore, we can see the resourcefulness in clothing from this time period as people used whatever they had on hand without wasting anything. Then there are the belt and pouches. A sturdy belt with bling, if you can afford it, and leather pouches is vital. In the pouches, you would normally carry around the most important things that you'd use in nature, like for example, flint, iron, and kindling for making a fire. Everyone in the wild would carry a knife of some kind for practical reasons, but since Mats traveled from Denmark, 21st century international laws prevented him from bringing his bullock dagger, hence why it isn't shown here. The next layer is the tunic. Mats's tunic is a simple tartan one with buttons to open up on very warm summer days for work. For a fashionable commoner in the early 15th century, knee-long tunics are getting a bit out of fashion. Nevertheless, it keeps your upper body nicely covered in harsh winter weather. Then it is the closed hose. Fully closed hose became a peak men's fashion item in the late 14th century. In contrast to the hose in the early to high Middle Ages that are separate, these ones are fashionable in the sense that they are sewn together in the back and closed in front with a codpiece to cover the gentle areas for decency. I'm laughing so much at how delicately Mats wrote this text, it's so funny. For a woodsman, it's somewhat a luxury item, hence the dye and quality of the cloth, but these are very practical in freezing conditions nonetheless. And then it is the extra hose, or hoses. I never know if the plural of hose is hose or hoses. In sources, we can find that during extra cold weather, people equipped themselves with an extra pair of hose to keep the legs and feet warm. These particular hose are of the older style of fashion. 2 hose socks that can be curled down to protect the inner hose if they should happen to be made of a finer wool. And for the footwear, Mats is wearing simple leather shoes. These are aesthetic to look at and with a fashionable multi-strap that then connects to one strap, which can be buckled in place for a tighter fit. Mats also mentioned that these are easily the most comfy leather shoes that he's ever worn, and that's very much been my experience with leather turned shoes as well. These are some of the most comfortable leather shoes that I've worn too. And then for extra warmth, Mats is wearing gloves, and these are 2-fingered gloves for extra dexterity that he made of a rough outer layer and a finer inner layer of wool for comfort. Mats also said, and I quote, "Disclaimer, these are my first pair of this type of gloves that I've ever made, so they look more cloven than they should." A big thank you to Mats for showing us his layers of clothing. He's now probably a little cold, but he's Norwegian, so he's probably fine. And yeah, it's been great to see all the different layers and explain them a little bit. And I'll see you all in 2 weeks for another video. Thanks so much for watching. Okay, bye!
Bye. Thanks for having me.